Welcome to the Slypatch podcast. My name is Digital Chimera, but you can call me Spencer.
And I'm Captain Bean. You can call me Tyler.
And it's time to ready up.
Time to ready up. Exactly. Exactly.
We just want to welcome everyone to the show, and so glad to be back for a second episode after such positive feedback. That's been awesome.
Man, I mean, our first episode to have as many people who have looked at it, who have subscribed, who have liked and commented. Like, we are so excited.
Better than I could have hoped.
Just way beyond. Like, we are so excited. So thank you guys so much. In this ready up section this week, we're actually going to talk about a couple of our sponsors that we have. So we have the Shoebox Club that we talked about last week in our episode. So my landlord for where our business is his name's Jason. His business is called the Shoebox Club, and he wanted to, to sponsor us and let everybody know that he supports us. And then what was the other one? I forgot.
Binary.
I'm so sorry. I talked about it already, but my brain. And then there's also a local bar called Binary. It's the Binary gaming bar. It's located at 92nd and Lincoln, and we're actually going to be doing a Thursday draft out there.
Yep.
So that's super awesome. Those are our sponsors this week, along with the Slypatch Gaming. Again, this is our channel, and since last week you didn't get to truly and fully see the logo, this is our logo. We had the logo on the hat. That's not necessarily the same, but
it was also on the thumbnail.
Well, I mean, it's definitely on the thumbnail, but this is our logo, on my shirt. It's on my chest. So.
And are those for sale yet?
So again, these are all prototypes right now.
Yep.
We will have those for sale later in February / early March. So yes.
All right. Cool.
We are actually going to start producing those.
Sweet. For you can give me one for my birthday then.
Oh, yours is free. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Spencer knows his is free. So.
We also have a guest on today.
Yeah.
His name's Jeff from the, what podcast again, Jeff?
It's the Paper Players Podcast.
Paper Players Podcast. Welcome on, Jeff.
Yeah, so if you guys that don't know from, if you don't read the title, because we're going to have it in the title, but this particular episode is about Magic the Gathering. We will refer to it as MTG at certain points, in the show. I do think it's important, because we talked about...
Last time we went halfway through the episode before...
we said LGS so many times and no one knew what it was. But so we're going to talk about Magic the Gathering / MTG in this episode. And Mr. Jeff Beier is a great friend of mine. He's been a patron of my stores for a long time. But he also has a podcast called the Paper Players Podcast. They talk about different formats like Modern, Commander... 5-color, which we're going to bring up and we're going to talk about later, which is is also referred to as prismatic. It used to be a big thing here in Wisconsin, but Jeff is well versed in so many different formats. Like he has knowledge of so many different cards. And so we're talking about MTG, and one of the things about Magic is it's literally been scientifically proven as the most complicated game in the world. Okay,
it's Turing complete.
Exactly. Yeah, it is literally the most complicated game in the world. It has literally over 10,000, probably close to 15,000 unique cards at this point. Yep. Right, and Jeff is an encyclopedia. Jeff's one of my close friends. Like I said, he's an amazing guy. He has, he has so much stuff that he knows, and that, that's the ready up though. But hey, before we get into the campaign, what do we got to do? We
got to go for our warm up round.
We got to warm up.
Time to talk about all the positive things going on in our lives.
100%.
What's up, Tyler?
Dude, what's new? So for myself personally, when we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast about how I'd been wanting to get into voice acting and voiceovers. So right after the podcast, I posted something on Facebook about, how I just wanted some positive feedback from people. Just wanted, people to let me know whether they thought it was something I could possibly do. There is a very prominent voice actor, like I talked about in the last podcast. His name's Steve Bloom, who does the teaching episodes, like I talked about, and it's about $8.90 for the year. And I'm going to try not to choke up here. I'm trying to keep myself, together.
You'll be all right.
But I've literally had over $700 in donations so far for my voice acting classes. Which to me is like, even if I don't get another dollar, I don't care. I'm definitely going to do the year. I don't mind paying the difference out of my pocket, But to have that much support and love from all the people in the community to say, hey, look, man, we believe in you. We think you can do this. So hopefully, in the next year or so, or maybe year or two, like maybe I'll be on your favorite video game that comes out, or the next anime that comes out, and you'll be able to be like, hey, I know that guy's voice.
Yep.
That's I know that guy. So
and I believe this was also your request for your birthday. So to everyone watching, if you haven't already donated, please go to Tyler's Facebook page and donate.
Yeah.
And that's not him asking, that's me asking.
And I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, we're going to have another podcast before my birthday comes up.
Of course.
And we'll talk about that. So next week's podcast will be right before my birthday. My birthday is Valentine's Day. Obviously, today is February 3rd. Our podcast doesn't release until the Monday after this, obviously.
Yep.
But, yeah, thank you guys so much. So it will actually, that podcast will actually release on my birthday, which is awesome.
It's your birthday!
It's my birthday! So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week for sure. But, that's my warm-up, man. I'm super excited about the voice acting and stuff, and I really want to get into it. And, like I said, I've had love and support from yourself, other people. It means a lot to me. So, like, what are you feeling today, man?
Well, my positive thing is a little bit heavier than that. But, I over the last few months, I've been going through therapy. I've been dealing with mental health issues for much of my later teenage and now adult life, and just a few months of therapy and a little bit of this and that down the line, I am in such a better place than I was even 6 months ago. And I'm just, for the first time in a long time, and for an extended period of time, because I've gone through bouts where I'm like feeling genuinely happy, but like it's been extended.
Yeah,
I've been good for a while, and it feels good.
I can tell you as one of your friends, and as someone who has been a confidant of yours, and we've talked, numerous times on that issue. Is dude, you look, you seem, like you just your aura, your presentation of yourself, everything has definitely spoken to that. Like it's spoken to the fact that you're in a much better place, and I
appreciate that, because
even
when the good times are going, it doesn't always feel like that. But I'm overall in a much better place than I used to be, and that's my positive thing this week.
100%, man. I'm glad. So that's the warm up round. We're about to get into the campaign, but before we get into the campaign, let's introduce our special guest of the week. So our special guest of the week is Mr. Jeff Beier. He is one of the hosts of the Paper Player podcast. As we talked about, they talk on all different, manners of Magic. Okay, it's like they talk about Modern. They have a almost daily update of like the newest like Commander. What's the this is the Infinite Combo and stuff. It's awesome. Like it's super cool to check out. But Jeff, are you there with us?
Hi. How's it going?
Awesome, man. So if you'd like to, man, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Jeff Beier. I've been kind of floating around the Magic community for 12 years in Milwaukee. I want to say maybe 13 years now. But that's kind of been my main like nerdy hobby in Milwaukee, other than a couple of other things that I'm into. But that's a little less community driven. I've really enjoyed playing Magic in Milwaukee just because it's been it's been really fun meeting new people all the time, making new friends all the time. It's a blast.
Awesome, man. Yeah, absolutely. So this week's podcast is going to be we're going to talk about Magic the Gathering. We're going to talk about it from a lot of different aspects.
A very general approach.
A very general approach.
We're interested in so many different parts.
Absolutely,
of the game.
and I mean, literally, we could do like 5 different. We could do 5 different episodes.
We are going to do 5 different episodes.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to do many different episodes on Magic the Gathering. But this week in particular, we wanted to talk about how like it affected us. One of the reasons that I had Mr. Jeff, come on is, again, as we talked about in last week's episode, I'm an LGS owner. I've been involved with multiple, local game stores, and Jeff was a patron of mine who also became a very good friend of mine. And so Jeff, real quick, just to ask you a question here, man. What got you into Magic in the first place?
Magic originally, it started for me and a buddy, one of the guy I actually do the podcast with, one of my other friends, Tony. He and me were looking to play card games again in like 2009. We used to play Yu-Gi-Oh together way back in 2001, and we went to a local game store because we were interested in playing D&D. Then we saw card games, ended up trying out a couple of different card games, and stuck with Magic because we realized that was like what had the most amount of players, so we could have the most amount of fun going out and playing.
Yeah.
And so, it's all community driven. That's the fun of the game, right? Is going out and hanging out with the community, making friends, playing games with people, getting out there.
Absolutely, and so just so you know, like you don't have to worry about shouting him out. So I'm going to shout him out personally because he's also a friend of mine. So his partner for the Paper Player podcast dude. That's a tongue twister, by the way, Jeff. It gets me like every time. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But exactly.
To really think about it.
Yeah, but his partner for the Paper Player podcast is Mr. Tony Coletti. Tony is a local here to Milwaukee, but he's an awesome guy. He's actually, believe it or not, he's my waste management rep. That's what he does for a living.
Oh, okay.
He works for waste management, and as a business owner, he actually helped me get my my dumpsters and stuff, in line. So Tony's awesome, from that standpoint, but also from other standpoints, from playing Magic. We appreciate Tony a lot in the community. He's always willing to learn and also teach people. Like Tony is a great person. Like if I was gonna have, for example, out at the store one day and like a little like teaching, I can't think of the word right now.
Just like an event to get people in.
Yeah. Like a new event to give people. Like Jeff and Tony would be people that I would just absolutely like be like, hey guys. You guys want to come and help us out with this introductory, event to Magic? Yeah, I get tongue tied. Jeff, you'll learn. Like, I did this last podcast too, where it's just like I can't think of the word, but
you're good.
But yeah, so that's awesome. That's how you got into Magic. So, another question I would have for you here would be like, so you guys have the Paper Player podcast, like we talked about. Like, what is it that you guys try to focus on each week, or like, because I've listened to your podcast personally and stuff like that. But like, tell us a little bit more about it, and like, to maybe like let people know, like, maybe they want to come over and look, listen to your podcast as well. Like, tell people about the Paper Player podcast real quick.
Sure. Yeah, I can give a little quick rundown. So essentially, we're just a variety Magic podcast. A lot of our players have different focus, we have 4 different people who run it. We each kind of have a different focus on what we like to play. So it's kind of interesting to get a perspective of someone who likes EDH versus someone who's really into the competitive scene versus somebody who's like, well, this is my one format. I play Legacy personally. Like, that's the one I want to be playing all the time.
Yep.
So, like, I am very much like, I want to play Legacy. So you get a lot of different opinions on the way cards work, what you think is good versus bad, where you think the game should be going. We talk about stuff like that. And we usually start off our podcast by just talking kind of like maybe not in like positives in our life, but we definitely talk about like, oh yeah, here's what we did that was fun with Magic this week. Because
That's
it's
really
good to
cool.
start off.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
It's good to
So-
start off on a foot that's like a positive interaction with Magic.
Yeah, so for those who are new to who are new to Magic, for example, when Jeff talks about Legacy as a format, so Legacy is a format that basically includes pretty much all the cards in Magic, that ever obviously Vintage is like beyond that, because it has the Power 9. But Legacy is a format that's like, the Power 9 is banned, and they also have a ban list, but basically, Jeff gets to play pretty much every card that's ever been played in Magic, or been printed in Magic, and that's why Jeff loves it. I know personally from Jeff, like, one of his favorite decks is the Lands deck. And it's a deck that's like, all of my stuff is based off the lands that I play, which is super, a super cool deck.
I have a deck like that, but it's for Commander, so it's probably very different.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like, Jeff,
Is it,
like I said,
is it Gitrog?
It's Windgrace.
Windgrace.
Okay.
Gitrog is the secret commander.
Yeah, Windgrace, and then Gitrog as the hidden commander for sure. But like I said, just to give people an explanation of the different formats. So another format that Jeff brought up was EDH, and it's also referred to as Commander, as we talk about.
My favorite format by far.
So Commander is it's a 100-card deck, or what technically 99 cards in your deck. You have the 100th card is your quote-unquote commander. It has to be a legendary creature, or there are some planeswalkers that you can use. And then the color identity of that commander or planeswalker is what you can play for cards in your deck. It's a singleton format, excluding basic lands and cards that break that rule. So here's a cool thing about Magic, and this is what we'll talk about, is for every rule in Magic,
there's a rule that breaks it.
there's literally a card that breaks it. Exactly. Yeah, there's literally a card that breaks it. So like, there's cards like Persistent Petitioners, there's cards like the Relentless Rats and stuff like that, where you can literally have as many in your deck as you own. Shadowborn Apostle, for example. Those are the cards. But excluding those, I don't want to say outliers necessarily, because they are played. But, excluding those particular cards, the format itself, EDH/Commander, is 100-card singleton. You can only have one of each card, barring, basic lands. And so that's the most popular format, period, in Magic right now. It's not just the most popular format at our store, it's the most popular format in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find people playing EDH like anywhere.
Yeah, it's been rising in popularity ever since I started playing Magic, and my first experience at an LGS was
The
EDH.
Tristani deck, like you talked about, right?
Yeah, a Tristani deck that my friend Bryce built.
Yeah, Bryce let you borrow Tristani, and then our first experience, like we talked about, was playing Commander together. Like,
there's only two formats that I ever play it, ever really, outside of their online game, Magic Arena. Outside of that, the only two formats I ever play are Limited and EDH.
Yeah, and so when he refers to Limited is there's a couple different formats. There's Draft, there's Sealed, there's some others, but those are the main two. And so like for example, we have a draft every week. So drafting is each player gets 3 packs. You open the pack, you take a card, you pass it to the left, for the first pack. When you open the second pack, you take a card, you pass it to the right, and then the third pack, you pass it back to the left. Like and you try to make a deck out of the cards, that you see, from that. That's draft. Sealed is you usually have 6 packs.
Yep.
And you open those packs and you make the best deck you can out of the 6 packs worth of cards you have.
Yep.
So that's limited. So when he refers to limited, what that means is it's a limited card pool.
Yep.
Okay, so something like Commander, or like going back to like what Jeff was, loves to play, which is Legacy.
Eternal formats.
Like
almost every card except for the ban list.
Yeah, is available to you. So that's not that's almost an unlimited. It's not what we call. Obviously it's not unlimited, but it's close to it, right? Whereas limited is those two formats. And so myself, I'm with you. My favorite format to play is draft. I love to draft. I love sitting down with 8 people at the table, my 3 packs, and it's me versus you deciding what's the best cards in the pack. Like, I love limited because it doesn't matter how much money you have. Because that's the thing about, like, when you talk about Commander or Legacy. Legacy is a very expensive format. Like, Jeff, you can speak to this, right?
Yes.
I mean, it has a very high plateau for even entry level,
EDH does too, and that's how Eternal formats go.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, Jeff plays limited, or Jeff plays Legacy. You have to have your dual lands, which are hundreds of dollars now, things like that. But you go to limited, you go to draft.
You just have to buy the packs.
It's the packs. I pay $15. You paid $15. Guess what? Let's figure out who's the better player,
Yep.
And
I won't lie, I'm terrible at deck construction. Limited is so hard for me. Like drafting, if I kind of know the format a little bit, I could go, okay, I see patterns here, let's go for it. But like sealed, I lose all the time. I'm terrible.
I like limited, I don't think I'm an incredible deck builder, but it is something I very much enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like playing limited has challenged me to become better at deck building for EDH.
Oh, 100%.
Just because you have to think about all of your ins and outs when you sit down and you draft, or when you sit down with a sealed card pool. It has definitely improved my deck building skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm so disconnected with EDH, is because I am very much a pick up a list because I don't want to think about it like deck building, and then go and play.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because there are certainly people who do the whole net decking thing. I've net decked before. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to talk about a net deck that I made recently.
To explain what net decking means is people who go on the internet, the net, and they look up deck lists of like the top 8 or the top, the top performing decks, and they just build that deck. They didn't personally decide to build that deck. They let someone else built that deck. They decided that it was a really good deck, and they decided to build.
Bought the cards, put it together.
Yeah, so that's what net decking refers to when it comes to Magic. And actually, I'm gonna go back just a second. I actually kind of lied. Like, my favorite format, actually, just so you know, is a limited format still. But it's two-headed giant sealed when it comes to pre-releases.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
I want to
two-headed giant sealed. Is
I want to talk about that for a second. So, literally for 5 years straight, me and my best friend / playing partner. So his name is Nick Robinson. Nick, if you see this podcast, I love you, brother. You know that. Like, he's literally like a brother to me. We went 5 years straight. Every set that came out, we played two-headed giant. No one beat us for 2 years straight, for 5 years straight.
I'll have to find someone to beat you two then.
No. We actually have been beaten. So again,
okay. So I don't have to break a streak here.
So we went back to talking about last podcast when I brought up Mr. Derek Sheets.
Yeah.
Mr. Derek Sheets actually put us in our place at one point.
Good for him.
He got lucky.
That's what they all say.
But we were killing them. We were destroying them, and then I just overextended and shouldn't have. I say he got lucky, but we just overextended. But yeah.
So you made a mistake.
I totally made a mistake. Yeah, I totally made a mistake for sure. But yeah, Derek actually put us in our place at one point. But like I said, for 5 years straight, we were the champions. Like, we were the people to beat. Like, we would literally show up to the two-headed giant events, and people would be like, "Oh, Nick and Tyler are playing," and like people.
Guess I'm playing for second.
No, people would literally drop out People would
really,
people would.
That's
People would
crazy.
literally drop out because they were like, "There's no chance of us winning."
that is so against the spirit of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
it's just like because like I understand the desire to win. Like I like winning too. I get it, but like primarily I'm there to have fun, build a deck, enjoy myself, and
Spencer has my poker chips.
and. There were people notoriously at various LGSs I've been to, whether it's for EDH or for limited or for specifically pre-release or draft, who are just really good players. They're better than most of the people who go there, and they win a lot. If I get paired in a pod with someone like that, that's not going to stop me from playing. I'm going to do my damnedest to beat them. And if I lose, I hope I have fun along the way. I'll play for second.
I wish I was one of those people.
It's really funny because whenever I end up doing a two-headed giant, it's with Tony, and he knows I'm the worst player of the two of us, so he always has me make every decision for us to be able to criticize me the entire time we're playing.
Exactly. Yeah. See, yeah. That's the fun thing about it. So, like, actually, funny story. So let's talk about this. So, Andy, my business partner.
Yeah.
Okay. Literally, the way we met was I went to a two-headed giant event, pre-release, at Game Town, the old store that I talked about, right? And we met in the finals.
Okay.
Okay? And no one knew me. Like I said, like, no one knew me here. No one knew, what I knew, right? And the funny thing about it was, so my partner was some random high school kid named Anthony that he just signed up, and just it was like, if anybody signs up, I'll play with him, right? So I was like, I'll take him, right?
Yeah.
And like no one knew who he was, and no one knew who I was, and so we're 2-0.
Just a couple of randoms.
Yeah,
pub stomping.
Couple of randoms, and so we're 2-0. We're going up against Andy, and literally we got down to the point. This is how mine and Andy's relationship started. Okay, and Andy will appreciate this. I know he'll see this at some point. He'll laugh about it because he knows the story and he laughs about it. Actually, he gets kind of mad when I tell the story sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, but
he knows he likes it.
But so here's what happened: is it gets to a point where literally I had 2 counter spells and a kill spell in my hand. There was nothing they could do.
That's so mean.
And they were dead on board. Okay, so him and his partner were completely dead on board, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, and I showed him my hand. I was like, look, bro, I'm gonna save you some time. And I show him my hand, right? And he's like, just let me think, And he gets like super like upset, whatever. And so anyway, the game ends. We win, whatever. And I'm a smoker. Like, if you guys don't know, I try to do my best to keep it off screen. That's why you see me leaning over. I'm a smoker. So, but we go outside to smoke after the game, right? And Andy apologizes to me like right away, because that's the cool thing about Midwest people is like he's like, hey man, I'm sorry I got salty. I'm sorry I got upset. Like, whatever. I was like, it's cool, man. Whatever. But I went 3-0 again, with a random person. So technically, like I was like almost 6 years in a row myself. But anyway, but yeah, so like, but that's the cool thing about how like that things like that work, especially like in the Magic community. And we talked about this when it came to LGSs, right? Which is, I didn't know this kid Anthony from anywhere.
Yeah.
And then we played an event together, we won together. And it can increase his confidence tenfold.
Of course.
He was like, oh my gosh, and he had a great time, and yeah, but
Magic is a very unifying and gratifying game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a somewhat similar story, if you don't mind me telling everyone.
Go for it, Jeff. Yeah, let's hear it.
That's why you're here.
That's why you're here, bud.
So I got a buddy that I've been friends with since like 2010. I met him at Magic, and we're pretty good buds now, and we've been hanging out ever since. But we originally met at Magic. We were just playing games of I think it might have been EDH or something way back then, and it was even more casual than it was today. Like there were no real good decks out, so it was very light. We ended up going and getting food afterwards because we were just kind of chit-chatting or whatever, and he was telling me about where he was from and kind of why he was coming out to that location, and like we hit it off, and literally ever since then, it was maybe a couple FNMs, we would hang out the entire FNM, and then we just started hanging out outside of Magic, and like he doesn't play Magic anymore, so like even though Magic is what brought us together, we're still friends post him quitting Magic. So it's like it can definitely still, it's a good gateway into finding new people to talk to.
Dude,
100%.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, and that speaks exactly to what we want to speak to. So just like we spoke to last week with the LGSs and how they brought us together, I'm going to bring this up again. Mm-hmm. Again, we got that 16-year age gap, like we talked about.
100%.
Right? And had we not had that similarity between us of, loving to play Magic, right?
And having a place to play it at.
Exactly. Like, we may have never became the friends that we are. We
might never have met.
Yeah, this podcast might not be, what it is, right? Spencer and I became friends over playing Magic.
Yep. Game of Commander.
Game of Commander, which I had this crappy ass, pre-con. But
it was still so fun. I don't even remember what pre-con it was, but
I don't either. I really don't.
I remember that was just a ton of fun. I remember it. I remember because at that event that we were at, you play the entry game. You go get your pity pack, or if you won, you get 2 packs. And then you sit right back down and you play for another 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just keep playing with the people you're playing with.
You
a lot
just
of
keep
times.
playing.
And that was the thing. Is like I know I lost the the one that mattered. I lost the game that mattered.
You missed out on a pack.
But which it doesn't matter. Yeah. But I do remember in the second game. I remember this specifically. It came down to me and you because we had put a board state together where it was just like nobody else could touch us, and it literally came down to me and Spencer in the second game.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure actually you won. I'm actually.
I think I did because at the time I still only had. I think 2 commander decks, and one I didn't play very often because it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And so the one I probably was playing that day was my Ur-Dragon deck.
Yeah.
And if you let it go and you don't have a board wipe, I win.
And that's and again I was playing the pre-con, so I didn't really have any board wipes.
Yeah, exactly.
And but we had wiped everybody else out, and it was just me and you coming down to the end, and I was just like, all right, you got this. Good
game.
I was like, I drew my card. I looked at my card. I was like, yeah, good game, man. Way to go. Have fun. He got it. But so Jeff, another thing I want to talk to you about, since we have you on here, and I know that we've been talking about a bunch of different things, but I asked you about what got you into Magic, but the other question I have for you is what keeps you in Magic?
I would still say it's the friend thing, no joke. One of the reasons I ended up coming back, I did take like maybe a 4-year break when from 2014 to 2018, something like that. What ended up having me come back was I started playing with Tony again, and he had enough stuff to lend me to come play like Modern or whatever. And I ended up seeing a guy that I had talked to a ton in like 2011, 2012, kind of lost connection with him or whatever, and he was just there playing Legacy, and I'm like, wow, hey, it's you. It's been years since I've seen you. You've had a kid and like you got married and all this stuff, and I started talking to him and hanging out again, and I started going regularly, and he fell out again or whatever, but it got me back in, and I realized one of the funnest things is just going to FNM, sitting down, seeing the same people you do every week, chatting for a little while and going home, because sometimes you don't want the full-on connection of like, I'm gonna come over to your house and we're gonna play. It's just like, what, I want the casual chit chat. We'll talk a little bit, maybe we'll get on Facebook and chat a little, but that's fine. And I have fun with you on Friday nights.
Oh, so that's why you haven't come to my house. No, no, I'm kidding. But so that's a really awesome story. I'm glad to hear that. But then and this is not me trying to toot my own horn in any way.
Yes, it is.
Don't lie. No, it's really not. It's really not. But Jeff has literally been one of my most loyal customers for a long time, right? So Jeff, I just, and again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I don't want you to necessarily, I'm not trying to, make myself sound any better than anybody right here. But what has brought you back to so originally, you came to me at Game Town when I did that, right? And now I've opened Slypatch. What is it that keeps bringing you back to, for example, the stores that I'm at?
I mean, so the whole thing I like is, you're building a community, and I enjoy what you're building in your community, and I believe in what you're building in your community. I'll give you the ego pat you want. That's fine. We're good.
I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to get an ego pat. I'm just looking for the truth. Tell me the truth. You can be cheap prices. If cheap prices, whatever.
I mean, hey,
I'm gonna tell you right now, that was the start of it. Honestly, it was cheap prices was what started it, and I have a lot of fun talking to you. We have good conversations every time I talk to you, and I value that and I enjoy that. So, you're a good bud, and I like hanging out and just chatting with you sometimes.
I appreciate that, man. And that's the thing is and Jeff can attest to this, when it comes to, and this kind of goes back to the LGS thing, but also Magic is those people who come to me regularly, I give them great deals because, they're part of the community, and I'm just trying to build a community. That has been mine and Andy's number one goal from day one. I told you, and I talked about this in the last podcast, I made way more money, sitting in my underwear down here, buying collections and selling them.
But doing that, you wouldn't be hosting a podcast with an old friend and having other friends on as guests and
exactly
building a community that you can play Magic.
I wouldn't get to do those things, and those things to me, literally, are worth more than the money that I can make. It really is. I started up Slypatch Gaming because there were so many people that came to me and were like, dude, when are you going to start another store? When are you going to do that? And we talked about that. And again, and the reason I bring all that up, and I know this podcast is supposed to be focused on Magic. It is.
It's all related.
But we focus on Magic.
Magic is the primary outlet of Slypatch.
Exactly. The reason I started Slypatch was because we did not have a store in the Milwaukee area that truly focused on Magic.
It's true.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted to focus on Magic in general, which, by the way, I mean, Jeff knows this, still waiting on that modern crowd, but,
No. I know.
It's okay.
I am really pumped that dude, 5-color has now taken my heart as I want to come and play 5-color.
So let's talk about that for a second. Hold on, Jeff. So let's talk about that. So 5-color, for those who don't know, it was.
I've heard of it before. I don't know a lot about it, though.
It was originally referred to as prismatic.
Yeah, okay? And I've heard of prismatic before.
So the deck is at least 250 cards, at least 20 of each color. However, there's a guy who has a mono green deck because you can use hybrid cards.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So
and Phyrexian mana.
Right. But you can also use uncards. You can use all kinds. There's also a guy who uses nothing but an undeck, which is awesome, right? So but it's a 250, it's a 250 card deck. Most people run about 120, 130 lands, and then other cards. The format, the way it is now, is you cannot have any kind of search in your deck other than for lands. So, so you can't have any demonic tutors, vampiric tutors, anything like that, right?
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
However, Mr. Jeff, and we're going to let you talk about this here, has found a great loophole here because all you can search for is lands, right? So, what is the number one land you want to search for, Mr. Beier?
There is a card from the unsets called R&D Secret Lair. Is a land, taps for colorless. and it reads, erratas are ignored, cards must be played as written. So there's a lot of older cards that have poor writing in them that you can take advantage of to just do things like either lock the board, like it just locks the game because there's no option, like the way the card reads, you can't make an option, you can't make a choice, or things like just instant winning the game with one other card.
Oh, it's funny.
So Jeff, let's talk about like the interaction, for example, with like a card that I'm holding on for you because he's going to come get it for me is Hecatomb.
Yep, it's a 3 black mana, and then it's an enchantment. When you play it, you must sacrifice. Well, I should say it says on the card, sacrifice 3 creatures when it comes into play. The errata says that if you do not, you must destroy it. So I don't have to worry about that part. And then the ability is 0. Tap target swamp, deal 1 damage to target creature or player. And because it doesn't say tap an untapped swamp, you could just target the same swamp infinite times and deal infinite damage.
It's so dumb.
The errata says
cards.
The errata is you have to tap an untapped swamp because they didn't want you to just infinitely kill someone.
So like you said, that's how the errata reads, right? But because he has R&D Secret Lair,
that's so dumb.
He can literally play R&D Secret Lair, play Hecatomb with 1 swamp untapped, right?
Oh, it's
and just machine gun somebody out, like blah blah blah.
That's funny. I like it.
It's fantastic. This is exactly another reason why I want to have Jeff on, because Jeff is one of those guys that's like always looking at how can we beat the
Weird
system.
Stuff. Yep.
So.
And then the other thing I will say that I really, really like about 5-color versus EDH, something that I've always not been a huge fan of in EDH, is the amount of searching that people do with things like Tutor's Demonic, whether it's Demonic Tutor, which goes and gets a card and puts it into your hand, I think.
Yeah.
Or, there's like a bunch of different tutors that can go get different cards from your deck. I have never been a fan of the amount of time that it takes to shuffle and wait for people to do things like that, because most people play tutors.
Yeah, that is something that that definitely slows down an EDH game, especially because in EDH typically, for those who don't know, it's played usually in 4-person pods. It's a 4-man free-for-all most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when most people are constantly tutoring it does definitely slow the game down. So I can understand that.
And actually, the more competitive you get with Commander,
even more
like,
tutors.
when you get into like the tier 1s and the actual like CDH, like the shuffling happens and we call it the solitaire. We call it solitaire, right? Like there are times where people play solitaire with themselves, basically, where they're like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna search for this. I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna, and like, there's just nothing you can do. You're just sitting there, literally watching them play solitaire and play a bunch of things,
and
themselves.
And I appreciate that for the fact that it does bring those players. It does make fun for those people.
Yeah.
The people who play CDH are often stereotyped like these sweaty nerds who sit down and just want to win and pub stomp and
but that's
stuff.
not necessarily true, because like Bryce.
Yeah, 2 of my old high school friends, Bryce and Kian, I've told you guys about Bryce. They're big CDH players.
Bryce almost always plays in the competitive pods on Fridays.
And so does Kian.
Yeah,
and
so does Kian, yeah.
That's half of those people, and that's just what's fun for them. And I don't think that's awful at all. But for me, I'm much bigger into the casual part because I like long drawn out battles where there's twists and turns and someone's on top and then everyone takes them down collectively.
Yeah, you want to
and
play,
then there's a free for all between the other 3 players and someone finally comes out on top.
You want to play your Avenger of Zendikar and hope nobody has a board wipe.
Yes,
kind of
exactly. Yes.
So for those who don't know, Avenger of Zendikar is like a 7-mana creature, but when it comes in, it makes an 0/1 plant for each land you control. And then every time it has a landfall ability, every time you play a land, the plants get +1/+1. So like he wants to like like I have 70 dudes
and then play Crater Hoof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like and that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, real quick, Jeff, since we have you on here, and we got you, to talk about like, so you talked about how your favorite format's Legacy,
Yep.
but you also enjoy, Commander, and you've talked about, we asked you about like, what brings you out, what keeps you going, which is your friends and stuff like that, but I guess the thing I want to ask you now is like, what is it about Magic just in general that like keeps you in Magic?
If you want to say Magic itself, I do enjoy some of the complexity of the game, even though sometimes I don't have the brain to grasp that. Like I will play a control deck happily, even though I may not be able to pilot it perfectly. I will play it just because I like doing that. And I think the ability to kind of find something you like and stick with it is something that I think is important in Magic. And it kind of gives you, I don't want to call it an identity, but if you want to call it that, you can, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm a control player, or I like to play big stompy guys who make a million dudes, and then I swing with a Crater Hoof. If that's your style, that's your style. And I think that's fun.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what what we wanted to know from you is like for me personally, what keeps me in Magic other than being a game store owner,
other than the obvious,
other than the obvious, which is that like, but from a player standpoint, what keeps me in Magic is that they have new mechanics, new things come out all the time, to where the game changes. Like for example. I played chess a lot as a kid, okay? And the thing about chess is there's a finite amount of moves, okay?
It's a lot.
But
it is finite.
It is a finite amount. In Magic, it's really not that simple.
Because, there technically is at all times finite, but because they're continuously coming out with more and more.
Yeah, but there's things that can just
over time.
There's things that
can
cause a continuous loop to where like the game just comes to a draw. For example, and that's really cool. In my mind is like I can constantly try to come up with this new combination of things or way to play things, stuff like that. That's what keeps me in Magic personally.
When you bring up that chess analogy, it always reminds me that people complain about variance in Magic, and that is something I love about Magic because I do not have a big enough brain to play chess. I am not looking to play chess. I want that variance to give me a chance to win.
It's true, and one of the things is that variance. I understand like from a competitive standpoint why variance is a little bit sort of, I don't know, it's unlikable and off-putting because it does take out an aspect of skill. And not to say that there's no skill involved, because that is so much not true.
But that's the thing, is like the game has so much skill. So I'll give you a perfect example, okay? I have played Burn. So for those who don't know what Burn is it's a red mana based deck with a bunch of cards that do direct damage to either players or creatures, right? I have played Burn in Legacy. I've played it in Modern. Like I've top 8'd to Modern States, for example, with Burn. I've played Legacy Burn for a long time, and there's a lot of people who go, well, that's a no-brain deck. It's like...
That's not true.
That's not true at all.
That's not true.
Not true at all.
Like, if you get the perfect hand, yeah, sure, you can just bolt them 4 times in the face and shock them 4 times in the face if you've got the perfect hand, but if you don't, it's gonna be a little harder.
Like, for example, like I said, I top 8'd that Modern States. In my top 8 match, I played against Merfolk. You know what he played, turn 2? He played Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, that'll get you.
which shut down every one drop that I had, you know. So like my lightning bolts, my lava spikes, everything, they were done, you know.
Can't even Vandal Blast it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So like,
Shucks.
The point is like, you know, people think at certain points that like certain decks are no brainers or whatever, but they're not. You know, it takes a lot of mental capacity to run certain decks,
and there are definitely, you know, there are some decks who you have to do more thinking or more math or more whatever, more anticipation of your opponent's next move to pilot them. But I firmly believe that there is no deck in Magic that is entirely brainless.
Exactly, but going into what we're talking about, so Jeff, real quick, you know, because we talked about this earlier, I kind of brought it up, but I wanted to get a little bit more detail. So again, Jeff's favorite format is Legacy, right? And his deck that he plays is lands. Is that correct, Jeff?
I'll say it is my favorite deck. I don't play it anymore because I had to sell. Well, I didn't have to, but I sold the single most expensive card in it.
Well,
whatever,
yeah, but let's not worry about that. But like,
Yep.
That's your favorite deck to play in Legacy, right? Is lands,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So explain to people how lands works. So just so people know, real quick, before we get into it, the way Magic works is you can only play one land per turn unless another card tells you otherwise, right? Like we talked about earlier. For every rule, there's cards that breaks the rules, right?
Yep.
So, you know, for the most part, you can only play one land per turn, right? But what's the point of playing land, you know, a quote unquote lands deck in Legacy, and how do you win?
So with lands in Legacy, a lot of the times it's considered a toolbox deck. When they say that, that means there's a bunch of one-ofs in the deck that do things against specific matchups that you need to get out in order to beat those matchups. So there's certain cards that'll either lock out a certain matchup or make you favorable against that matchup. Lands plays cards that let you play extra lands every turn. So there's an enchantment that lets you play an extra land every turn.
Exploration.
Exploration. Plays Mox Diamond, which is an artifact that costs 0 that you discard a land, and then you can tap it for any mana.
Yeah, but
And
give us an example of some of the lands that you play that do the things that you want to do.
Yeah. So there's things like Maze of Ith, which helps slow down your opponent because it's tap this land, target a creature that's attacking, untap that creature, and it doesn't deal combat damage.
Well, remove it
so
from...
you use...
It actually removes it from combat.
Nope, that it does not.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the other one. I'm sorry, you're right.
There's another one that costs 4 mana.
Isathos or whatever.
Yep, because there's a combo you can do where you untap your own guy with Maze of Ith and then tap him to do repeatedly like an effect to gain infinite mana or something.
Yeah.
You can do some wonky stuff like that. But in this deck, you use it to slow your opponent down. The whole point is to either beat them with a card that says every time you play a land, you reveal the card off the top of your deck. If you don't play that card until the end of turn, you deal 1 damage to your opponent and it goes to the graveyard. So what you do is you fuel it by just playing tons of lands over and over. There's this card called Dark Depths, which is it comes in with like 10 ice counters on it, I want to say. It's a land that doesn't tap for anything.
Yeah.
And it's a legendary land. But in order to remove a counter, you got to pay 3, and then it takes a counter off. So obviously, normally you'd have to spend forever taking all those counters off. But there's another land in the deck called Thespian Stage, which says copy target land for 2 and 2 colorless and tap it.
Yep.
So what you do is you end up copying the Dark Depths. Because it doesn't enter play, it becomes a copy. It doesn't get those counters on it, and it instantly transforms into a 20/20 flying indestructible creature.
Yeah.
Big plays. I love that combo. I have that combo in my
It's got that big
too.
boy on it.
Yeah.
Yep, it's super strong.
Absolute lad, the Merit Lodge.
Yeah, man, coming in for you. So it does all these little things, and it has a bunch of toolbox cards to dig out lands really quickly. There's a card called Crop Rotation, which is a green, sacrifice a land, go into your deck and get any land you want and put it in play. So you use that kind of thing to go get the lands that you need at any given time. It plays Life from the Loam, which is there's this a mechanic called Dredge, which is where you have to mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and you put the card from your graveyard back into your hand, and then you can play it in order to return 3 lands from your graveyard to your hand. So that helps you dig through the deck even faster to find your pieces to combo or to slowly ping them out with that other card.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know, like when he refers to mill, it's like take cards from your library and put them into your graveyard. So yeah, but
so it's just it's working on a bunch of different accesses, however you want to say it, and you kind of have to know what you're playing against to understand what you should be doing at that given time, which is why I was always terrible with the deck, but that's fine because I like playing it.
That's really interesting because I'm very unfamiliar with Legacy, but the idea of that deck is actually very, very familiar to me because that is how all Commander decks are played. Because Commander is a singleton format, every card has to be unique from one another except for your basic lands. And so if you're playing a sort of control-y kind of toolboxy deck, you can't rely on 4 copies of Mana Drain.
Yeah.
You have to have Mana Drain, Counterspell, Memory Lapse, whatever. You have to have one of each.
Yeah, negate, all that stuff, yeah.
And so with, like, I also run a Lands Matter deck in EDH with Lord Windgrace at the helm. And my lands are probably actually very similar to that Legacy deck for lands. Because, I do run crop rotation. I do run different things that'll get specific lands out, and I run Dark Depths and
do you run Tabernacle?
No, I don't have $3,000 to drop on a Tabernacle, unfortunately.
Yeah,
playing lands anymore.
But I run, or I don't have one, but I'd love to run Glacial Chasm, and in that deck I usually win with either just a lot of mana. With like a Scape Shift followed by a Splendid Reclamation to get a bunch of lands out and then get all my lands from my graveyard. And then I just use that for like a Exsanguinate and drain everyone's life total, or for a Torment of Hailfire for like X is 20. Or I'll win with a Prismatic Omen and Valakut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And make copies of Valakut with Thespian Stage and Vesuva.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle is the name of the land, and it's, every time you have a mountain enter after you have X amount of mountains.
5 other mountains.
5 other mountains, then it does 3 damage to target player or creature. So what he's talking about is like, a combo where it's like,
there's an enchantment called Prismatic Omen that turns all of your lands into every land type.
Yeah. Or you can even run Blood Moon, because Blood Moon would work. I don't run Blood Moon, but Blood Moon would talk. But actually, that would actually.
I run a lot of.
That would actually shut off your Valakut, so that wouldn't.
Yeah, no, Blood Moon wouldn't work.
Blood Moon is the bane of lands.
Yeah, it is the bane of lands.
I hate a turn 1.
Yeah,
turn 1 Blood Moon's a nightmare.
Blood Moon plus what's the blue one? What's the blue one?
No, that's
no. You're talking about Back to Basics.
Back to Basics.
Oh yeah.
So
Back to Basics is brutal.
So real quick, for everybody who's listening, again, we've gone into a lot of specifics that are beyond some people's understanding, comprehension, but the point of what we're talking about today, and the reason why we have this podcast, is we're talking about how Magic the Gathering overall brings us together,
True.
So, like Jeff said, he wouldn't have the friends he had. We wouldn't be friends,
True.
And we talked about, that's also true for the local game store stuff like we talked about, but Magic is actually what brought us together.
Yeah. And, another thing just to illustrate that, before tonight recording this podcast, I've never talked with Jeff, but Jeff seems like a wonderful guy. I'm happy to have him on the podcast, happy to meet him.
I tell you, I got I got a Glacial Chasm, an extra one sitting right here. I'm just
See,
gonna
look,
bring
he-
that
look,
over.
look,
to
he's
Taylor.
trying to
I'll
trade with
hand it
you.
over.
He's trying to make money. Like
Trade. I'm gonna hand it to him. I don't care.
All
It's
right.
like $2.
Get rid of Jeff. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But yeah, even just after, we did a little bit of a pre-talk with him, got our audio sorted, and just after an hour of us talking, I would consider you a friend, Jeff, because, we've already bonded over something that we share, and Magic just brings people together. It gives everyone even though we play totally different formats, it gives us something to relate on and something to talk about.
All kidding aside, Jeff is an amazing guy. Like like I said, he's been a
Very
friend.
happy to have him on the podcast
He's been a
today.
friend of mine for many years. That's why I wanted to have him on tonight.
Glad to be here.
He's got great knowledge of stuff. So guys, like that's kind of our campaign tonight. Our campaign tonight was just to kind of generally talk about Magic and stuff like that.
Yep.
Obviously, we're gonna have many other podcasts that talk about Magic.
Yeah, we're gonna go into more specifics later. Like,
100%.
We're gonna do episodes on specific formats. We're gonna do episodes on whatever we can think of, really. And if you have any suggestions, we are always 100% open to them.
100%. Please comment. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, stuff like that. But we want
Satisfy the algorithm gods.
Yeah, we want feedback for sure. But tonight, for example, we just wanted to kind of generally talk about Magic. And like I said, the big thing that I wanted to bring up and the thing that matters, and it goes back again into our first podcast, which is how it garners friendships that you would never assume that you would have.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like I said, without Magic the Gathering, me and Spencer wouldn't have known each other. Without Magic, me and Jeff wouldn't have known each other as much as we do. Like, the reason why Jeff and me became, as good friends as we do is there was a specific card, Mox Diamond. If you remember the Mox Diamond, Jeff.
Good old Mox Diamond.
Yeah, he messaged me. He was like, "Do you have a Mox Diamond?" I was like, "Well, I have one personally." Like our store, the store that I worked at the time. I'll have to shout it out, but the store I worked at the time didn't have one, but I had one personally. And he was like, "Well, I'm looking for one." Okay, so he came up. He bought the Mox Diamond. He bought some other cards, and ever since then we've been friends because he knows, like, hey, if he needs a card, I'm gonna help him out. And that's one thing
just talk.
Hey, that's the one.
I just want to come over.
But that's the one thing for sure, right, Jeff? Is like, if you need a card, if it's in my deck, I got you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not only that. Like I said, I really do enjoy coming over and chatting because, like, we have good conversations every time. So I'm all about it.
100%, and that's what's cool about Jeff. Like, Jeff doesn't live that far from the store, and like, there's been days where he just came over to the store just for us to hang out and chat, which is awesome. You know. So yeah, I mean, again, that's to show people that things like Magic the Gathering. There's other games. Obviously, we're going to talk about other stuff in the future. Real quick, before we leave the main topic, but we're going to go into our mains.
Yep.
Before we leave the campaign, we are going to be doing a set review for the new set. So there's 225 out of 302 cards spoiled so far, which means that by this Friday, we should have the full set review for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. When that comes out, actually Spencer and I are going to get together this weekend after that gets fully spoiled. We're going to do a set review based off of Commander, because that's the format that we like to play.
True.
So are we going to do every card? No, we're not.
We're primarily going to go over mythics, rares, and those infamous mythic uncommons that have been coming out lately.
Yeah, but I mean,
that are just
but there's
good for the format, exciting for the format.
Yeah, but there's some mythics and rares even that we're not going to go over.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going to go over everything.
Because if they don't apply to what we think is in the Commander thing, we're just not going to do it, right?
Yep.
So we are going to do a set review. So we're actually technically going to have 2 different videos coming out this week. So this main podcast is going to come out on Monday, like our normal stuff.
Yeah.
and then the other one probably do Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. We'll plan on Wednesday. If anything changes, we'll throw a pinned comment on the podcast on Monday, letting you guys know when you can find that set review. But
but we are going to do a set review this weekend, which is going to be great.
Yep.
Nice. That's going to be fantastic.
And I think something we're planning on doing is moving forward as sets come out. It's not going to be regular podcast episodes, but we are going to probably be doing set reviews for any Magic sets that do come out
100%.
Moving forward.
100%. Yeah, we're going to have a separate episode for the set reviews. 100%.
And that would also include, I know lately they've been doing commander decks tied to sets, but if they go back to doing commander decks as their own thing like they used to, having a dedicated commander 2020, 2021, 2022. If they go back to that at any point, we'll also review some of the cards coming out in those
absolutely,
sets. Absolutely,
because I mean, a lot of times they only do like 10 to 15 cards at max, that are new cards, so that's easy for us to do for sure.
Little quick one.
Yeah, but we'll be doing those too. So anyway.
So that concludes today's campaign, and we always want to know what you think, so please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more, and share with all your friends. And we want feedback on any future campaign ideas.
Absolutely. So we're going to go into our mains, and since we still have Jeff here, Jeff, we talked about this earlier. What is your main topic, for this week?
My main topic, the thing that I'm the most focused on at the moment, is in a week we have Anime Milwaukee coming up. You want to talk about like a great nerd, like getting together with a bunch of people, meeting a bunch of new people, seeing cosplayers, all that stuff. I look forward to every convention that I go to just because it's like a mini vacation for me. It's just a time to hang out with friends and party a little bit and see a bunch of nerdy things that I like.
Yeah, amen to that.
I'm down. I'm already there.
I've been to Anime Milwaukee a few times. It's always a good time, and I'm looking forward to it this year.
So tell us a little bit more about AMKE.
It is a big old convention that happens in downtown Milwaukee at it used to be the Hyatt, but now it's at the Hilton. Yeah. They switched their main one over to the Hilton last year, I think.
So is that technically the Wisconsin Center?
And then it runs into the Wisconsin Center. They take up some of the Wisconsin Center to do their thing too. But it's it's just a full weekend, Friday to Sunday. Panels, cosplayers, industry people, stuff to buy in a dealer hall, all that. So it's a good time to just kind of walk around and have fun.
Yeah, and it's primarily it's named after and primarily focused on anime, but if you're not really into anime, there's tons of other things there too, and they have a full game room with all kinds of video game systems for you to play at. They have tournaments for it too.
They have a board game room.
They have a board game room, and actually the first time I went, I actually participated in a Commander tournament in their board game room. Yeah. I don't know if they do that anymore, but you can maybe even go play Magic. There's a rave at night if that's your speed. There's all kinds of fun stuff for you to go check out. So
you know me, Spencer. I like to party.
Yep, you definitely do. But yeah, if that at all interests you guys, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. All right, so his was AMK. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm gonna cheat. I have a little too. Last week I talked a little bit about my excitement for Vox Machina, and let me say the hype has delivered. I'm not going to spoil anything for those who want to still check it out, but it was the first 3 episodes, and 3 episodes every Friday moving forward, and it's definitely geared for adults. Lots of swearing, lots of gore, heavy topics. It is so much fun as a Critical Role fan, though, and I'm very excited for more. My other piece is I've been... It's not going to be out for many years, but I am really, really, really excited for Star Wars Eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
Which has been... There's been a couple of trailers out. Very, very brief trailers, not showing a lot, but just the idea itself insanely exciting to me.
So speaking on that,
so excited.
So speaking on that, in how we have, how we like to bring on other guests, we talked about this. My cousin Nick does a podcast for Star Wars called Nick and Mello's Podcast. We're gonna have him on soon when we actually do our Star Wars episode.
Yep.
And so we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about our excitement about Eclipse, but I had to get a little.
I know.
It looks so cool.
No.
The trailer's so good. If you guys haven't seen the trailer, go check out the trailer.
We will have Nick and possibly even Mello. We don't know for sure, but we may actually have Nick and Mello on for that podcast. Would be great. But yeah, like I said, they have their own podcast, which is Nick and Mello's podcast, and it's completely focused on Star Wars. And they may even be talking about that right now.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys don't know what Star Wars Eclipse is, it is a video game. It is I believe they said it was going to be an open world Star Wars video game, and I'm very excited for the prospects of it. Check out the trailer if you haven't seen it. It looks really cool. I don't like the idea of being hyped up for it so early because I have to wait so long for it. But, well, it's a little too late for that, so yeah. I'm already hyped.
Yeah, completely. So my main this week, so we talked about this a little bit last week, and we're going to talk about this more in future episodes. So I'm a big MOBA player, as you know. And the main MOBA that I play is Smite. Okay? And so, currently there's 118 different deities. There's like 118 different gods. So you have your the ones that people know, like Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, that's from the, Greek stuff. There's all kinds of, gods that are known. And actually, for those who know Smite, there was a thing a few years back where the Hindu community actually sued Smite, trying to take the Hindu gods out, right? They fought it, whatever. The next god that's coming out is Shiva.
Yeah.
Which is like numero uno when it comes to Hindu gods, right? Because you have Ravan, you have Vamana, you have Kumbhakarna, you have just like all Kali, like all these different gods, right? Mm-hmm. They don't compare; they pale in comparison to Shiva, right? Shiva is actually our next god that's coming out in Smite. He comes out, or I don't know how to,
Well, it depends on how Smite's going to portray them.
They technically they technically portray it as a he, but I'm still going to say they, right? Because it's a deity, right?
Yeah.
So they come out in like 2 weeks. So
that must be exciting.
Yeah. So this is our Magic podcast that we're talking about, but next week, especially because it's my birthday week, we might be talking about some MOBAs.
Okay.
Just saying. But anyway, Shiva's coming out, and I'm super excited. I don't know if they're going to be a guardian or a warrior, but that's the main classes that I run because I play tanks. We talked about that. I love to play a tank when in those types of formats. So I'm super excited for that. But yeah, so that's kind of my main. But going into the cooldown, so we're going to the cooldown.
Yep. As we're wrapping up the show here and going into the ability cooldown, any other remarks you have, Tyler?
So first and foremost, Jeff, we want to thank you for being on today again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Shout out yourself. If there's any other links other than what we talked about with the Paper Player podcast, like shout out your links. I don't care if it's Facebook, whatever.
And you'll be able to find them all in the description below as well.
And we will definitely put them in the description too. But yeah, Jeff, go ahead and shout out your links for the Paper Player.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. You can find us on Facebook at Paper Player Podcast. I believe you can the podcast thing is for Apple. I forget what it's called.
Yeah. Are you also
I have no
are you on
idea.
Spotify as well, or no?
Yes, I believe so. I believe we are on Spotify as well. So if you search Paper Player Podcast and any of those things, you should be able to find us. And we typically do weekly episodes. We haven't missed one yet.
All right.
With like sometimes we rotate between who's there and who isn't, but for the most part, we try and make
Yeah.
it 4. But yeah, so check us out weekly.
And as someone who's personally listening to their podcast, it's awesome. Like, I love listening to their podcast. It's great. Like,
I'll certainly be listening to it moving forward,
sometimes it puts me to sleep, but it's
fair.
not because it's boring. It's just because it's great to listen to, and I fall asleep to it. But yeah, like Jeff and Tony, Jeff just has that relaxing voice. But yeah, I mean, I listen to him and Tony, when I'm going to sleep sometimes, so it's great. On the cool down, the thing I want to talk about is, again, guys, we're gonna have here in the next couple days, we're gonna put out a set review for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
Very excited for
Yeah,
it.
exactly. We're very excited for it, and we're talking about Magic the Gathering. We're specifically gonna focus on the commander aspect of it.
Yep.
But that being said, it doesn't mean that we want, we may mention a couple other cards for different formats, but yeah, we're gonna focus on Commander. So we're not gonna talk about every single card that they spoil, like every single card in the format, but we're gonna give a good broad aspect of things that apply to Commander aspect. We've already talked about Jin, for example. We've talked about the Wanderer, stuff like that. Like, we're still gonna talk about them in our podcast for Commander, but it just we're not going to talk about every single card because some of those just don't apply to our formats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always, when you get a regular set like this, there's always going to be plenty of cards that don't apply to specific formats. These days even a lot of cards don't apply to standard, which that's what most of these sets are made for. At least they used to be.
Can I ask for a spoiler? How do you guys?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Can you ask? Sorry, can I ask for a spoiler?
Sure.
How do you guys feel about Boseiju, the new Greenland with the channel ability?
Okay. So
that's what I want to know.
Okay. So I mean, we'll go ahead and talk about that in this episode. We'll talk about it more in the next one. But first and foremost, the card is insane. Okay?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know Magic that well, I'm trying to find it real quick on the Mythic Spoiler. Hold on.
All right, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Right
that
there.
is like my number one card. I want to ask everyone, what do you think of that card?
So it's a legendary land that comes in, taps for a green. It has a channel ability. So the channel ability is 1 to green, discard it. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it on the battlefield, shuffle. It costs 1 less for each legendary you control, right? Or legendary creature you control. So here's the thing. Let's say you control no legendary creatures. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
This card literally shuts down Tron in Modern. Okay? Because, you play your Tron lands, turn 2, I'm going to hit your Tron land, you can get a basic if you want to, and you play something like Wrenn and 6, for example, with it, which lets you get the card back. Yeah. Like, overall, Jeff, if you want my like overall rating on this card, I would put it at busted.
I would agree.
Like,
I mean, I'm thinking of it from like a lands perspective. Like in Legacy, it gives me an option before sideboarding as a one of in my deck to be able to take care of a Blood Moon or a Lockout card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's insane. And yeah, because it's a ability of the card. Yeah, like you can get rid of Blood Moon, like you talked about. Like, this card is insane. This card is super good. This card literally. So hold on, real quick. I'm gonna look at something.
I'm gonna, while you're looking at that, I'm going to say this in our set review again next week. As far as EDH is concerned, if you are playing a green deck and you have a Boseiju and you're not running the Boseiju, you're doing it wrong. It belongs in every single green deck, as many as you can.
You can reach it better than me. Type in Boseiju.
Yep. The other thing to remember is it can't be countered. It's an effect.
It is an ability.
It can be trick bind. It can be trick bind.
Yeah,
it can be,
And there are more of those effects in Commander than in other formats necessarily.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, I should have said physically they can't counter the card like with a counter spell.
Yes, counter spells don't work.
It's not popping up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to send you guys on a tangent. I just wanted to.
No,
it's
okay.
great.
That's what the cooldown is for. No, but Boseiju is incredibly good. A really big staple, in my opinion, in EDH is Assassin's Trophy, which is very, very similar. It is a black and a green instant that says you can destroy target permanent.
Instead of MTG stocks, type in TCG real quick.
You can destroy target permanent. Good.
Yeah, you can hit enter, I guess, or hit com.
You get to destroy target permanent, and your opponent gets to search for a basic land.
Yeah, type in Boseiju. Which card are you talking about again?
Assassin's Trophy. It's very similar.
Trophy, yeah.
So, but that is a spell. It has a slightly... It's a slightly worse upside for the person who it's being used against. Boseiju, you can get any land with a basic land type, so you can get your dual lands, or you can
still get your dual
triomes, which is an upside from Boseiju, but I mean, Assassin's Trophy is a spell, not a land. It's like Assassin's Trophy was already very good, and Boseiju is ridiculous, and I love it. I'm very excited about it.
Crazy. It helps in EDH too, because there's people who play so many lock combos that you can't cast anything.
Yes.
But now that you have the ability to activate this ability, you can actually get around those can't casts.
Yeah. This is a very, very powerful card. I think it's going, like, if you have a spare Boseiju, it's going in a deck immediately if you run any green decks that don't already have one, as far as EDH is concerned. It's quite, I want to say obnoxious, but I also love it, so I'm not going to slander it like that.
No, exactly. and so, to speak to its power, this card has not even come out yet. I apologize. I had to run off camera for a second. To speak to its power, this card has not even actually come out yet, and the card is $35 pre-order.
And it's a rare.
To give you guys a little perspective on that, who don't know Magic in general, we have plenty of cards that are like $1 at pre-order,
Yeah.
And this card is $35 because that's how good it is.
It's an insane card.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to be able to play with it.
It is super good. Super good.
Yep.
So that's kind of our cooldown, that we're talking about. So what's next, Spence?
Well, that concludes today's episode, if there's nothing else. Be sure to share this with all of the nerds in your life. And
and we will have a link. Like I said, we'll have a link on the YouTube for the Paper Players podcast.
Yep.
Jeff, thank you so much for being a guest of ours today.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being our guest. And that's the thing. If you guys look forward to in the future for our podcast, is we're going to have guests. Like I said, like we talked about, like people who we think are experts, in the fields of what we're talking about. The thing about Magic the Gathering is there's so many things we could talk about. And we talked about a bunch of different things today. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things next time we talk about it. there's formats like Popper, which once we have Popper, we're gonna have Andy on, talking about that, stuff like that. We're gonna space out, the Magic the Gathering stuff. Again, that's what we specialize in at Slypatch Gaming, but we're gonna still space them out for you guys. This one's about Magic. The next one's gonna be about some other stuff, but.
You call me when you put the anime in here, and then I'll be back.
Dude,
you better believe me,
right?
coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll call Jeff up again when we talk about anime for sure. But Jeff, thank you so much for being a part of it, man. Overall, Spencer, man, we had a great podcast last time.
We did.
We had a great podcast this time,
and more to come.
Yeah,
and
more to come.
Yeah, so just as a sign off, again, we're still getting used to this. This is our second one. We'll have a great sign off later, but as Spencer said last time, we love you all. Thank you for being here, and hope to see you in the future.
Hope to see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.